On tonight.
I have a warning to you, ISIS. We have trained soldiers in all 50 states that have been actually the same guys who've been kicking your ass for the last 14 years.
A stern warning from one of our country's bravest. Medal of Honor recipient Dakota Meyer is here with his plan to take down ISIS. Plus,
it's a witch hunt. It's really, really insane. They would rather see this country fail than see him succeed.
Eric Trump on the mainstream media's daily attacks on his father. And
some man in the tinfoil hat is reading like a teenage girl.
Musician Todd Rundgren has a few choice words for the president, but can he face the music on Water's World? Then,
who fought in the Civil War?
Britain and Spain, some part of Spain.
We're honoring Memorial Day weekend with a Water's World history quiz. It all begins right now. Welcome to Water's World. I'm Jesse Waters. We got a big show tonight, but I want to start with the hysteria of the left. Remember this guy?
If you get sick in America, this is what the Republicans want you to do. If you get sick, America, the Republican health care plan is this: die quickly.
That was when Republicans were trying to stop Obamacare from putting us further in debt. And 8 years later, the irresponsible name-calling is still going. This week, Team Trump proposed its new budget, and again, the Democrats are hyperbolic.
That budget that Trump has presented is a grotesquely immoral budget. It is a horrific budget. Senior citizens will lose perhaps the one nutritious meal a day they get, the Meals on Wheels program.
This budget, if I can be honest with you, it is an attempt to implement ethnic cleansing in this nation.
It is not an overstatement to say that some children will die because of this.
Children will die. The budget proposes things like requiring those on welfare to work and cutting out pork. Is that so bad? Joining me now is Anton Gunn, who worked in Health and Human Services under President Obama. Anton, you weren't responsible under President Obama for the Obamacare website, were you?
I was not responsible for the website.
Okay, good. I just wanted to get that out of the way. So the budget kills children. You know that's a lie, don't you?
No, it's not a lie. It's actually a fundamental framework of the program. See, a lot of programs to provide support for families, children with disabilities, families who have nutritional needs, and if they don't get their health care or if they don't get the services that they need, people die. So
okay, so you're saying that President Trump is purposely trying to kill children with his budget. Do you realize how crazy that sounds?
Yeah, it does sound crazy, but what I am saying is that President Trump and his team don't understand the federal budget and don't understand what these agencies do. They provide services for people in the middle of America, people who have needs, people in our country who've been left out of the process, who need support from the government. And if you don't understand those programs, you'll make decisions that cut them, and that'll take away services and the things that people need that are really important for their survival in their life.
It's funny to hear someone lecture the president on not understanding the federal budget when President Obama never submitted a balanced budget for the entire 8 years he was president. Let me ask you this, though. One of the guys up there on the montage said this budget was ethnic cleansing. You don't agree with that, do you?
I actually don't agree with that. I agree that the budget will disproportionately impact people in low-income communities. And in some communities, people that are low-income may be people of color. But so you can call it whatever you want to call it. It's a devastating budget for most of Americans who have needs, who are the least of these, who've been left out of the system for the most of all. So this is a big challenge.
Well, I'm glad you don't agree with the fact that it's ethnic cleansing, because that does a huge disservice to the people that were actually victims of real ethnic cleansing over in Europe many, many years ago. You know, the death talk about the budget. We had a situation under President Obama, who you worked for, when about almost 300 veterans died in VA waiting lines while some of these executives received bonuses. And you had 4 people in Benghazi who died while they weren't protected. And people died on the border, Border Patrol agents, fast and furious, when the previous president let gun walk across into Mexico. So to say this budget's going to kill people, looking back, I think a lot of the previous policies under the last president actually did kill people.
So you can cherry pick any kind of situation
That's
and
not
say that somebody
cherry-picking,
did
that's
something
real.
bad. Listen. You can go back to 2001 and saw that almost 3,000 Americans died in New York City on 9/11 under the president before President Obama. And so you can blame him for not doing enough in Homeland Security. So
yeah,
you can't cherry pick
President
that
Obama
way,
knew
but you can focus
that these guns were crossing the border to Mexico. President Obama knew there were problems at the VA and still didn't do anything about it.
In the same way, President Trump's administration knows that there are Americans who have disabilities who need care, but they've chosen to make a decision in their budget to deny them the opportunity to have that care and those services. So to cut Meals on Wheels to seniors in America, I mean, how are you going to negatively impact the greatest generation of Americans on the services that they need? They may only get 1 or 2 nutritious meals. My grandmother's 92, born in 1925. And so these are services that many Americans need, but to make a decision to cut them out of the budget will devastate so many Americans and so many families that it makes actually no sense to do it.
Yeah,
and
when
that's
I
why
was
I say
a
they don't
young
understand
guy
what's in the budget.
growing up in Philadelphia, I actually participated in the Meals on Wheels program and delivered some of those meals to older Americans. And, you know, I don't think they're actually going to cut that. I actually think that's a noble program, but that's besides the point. That's probably just a strong initial first bid, and then he'll probably come back from there. Let me ask you about some of the pork, though, in the budget here. The EPA, Trump's cutting the EPA. The EPA spent $700,000 for a climate change musical. Do you think that's a good use of taxpayer money, Anton?
Well, I wouldn't necessarily spend money on a musical, but what I would spend money on is make sure that our rivers are clean, to make sure our lakes are clean, to make sure that climate is good.
I agree.
So I can't talk about a musical.
Okay, so we agree.
I will also say
we agree. So the musical goes. Let's get rid of the musical. Hold on. Let me go through some of these. They also spent $7 million on grasshopper research. Now, you know, I know grasshoppers are a great insect. They also, you know, have shrimp running on treadmills to study those things too. Do you think that's a good use of taxpayer money?
Well, I'm not a scientist, so I can't answer that question, but I would advise that before you make a decision to cut a program, to actually talk to somebody who knows the science behind it and what's the value of doing that.
$7 million is a lot of money to spend on grasshoppers. I'd rather put that money back on Meals on Wheels. Listen, I'm not saying some of these things aren't good things to invest money in. All I'm saying is we're $20 trillion in debt. The last president went from 10 trillion to the 20 trillion, and we can't afford some of these things, so let's prioritize the things that are important. How's that sound, Anton?
No, it sounds like we should prioritize, but it sounds like we should actually talk to people that knows how these programs work and how the agencies work, and don't make arbitrary decisions to just cut the programs that impact the poorest people in our communities. That actually makes no sense whatsoever. There's nobody that even manage their household in that way, so I don't know why we're trying to do the federal budget in the same way.
Well, people that manage their household actually have to work within a budget. The federal government does not. So I think we all should try to act like we're all part of one big family. Anton, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Still to come, a Watters World exclusive. They say the best business is done on the golf course. So I hit the links with Eric Trump and got his reaction to his father's first trip overseas. Plus, 70s rocker Todd Rundgren has a message for Trump supporters. Don't come to my show. But will he be singing a different tune on my show? He joins me next.
I've thought about us for a long, long time. Maybe
We've all heard the slew of celebrities and musicians talking about how much they hate President Trump and everything he stands for. But one musician has taken it a step further. Rocker Todd Rundgren recently said this in an interview with Variety. If you're a Trump supporter, don't come to my show because you won't have a good time. And also, I don't understand your freaking values because I'm not singing about that. If you don't understand that basic thing, you're just fooling yourself. I guarantee that in this show, if you're a Trump supporter, you will likely be offended. Let the buyer beware. I welcome all people to my show, including Mr. Rundgren himself. So, Todd, why no Trump supporters at your shows? Their money's no good for you?
Well, I'll tell you the genesis of this issue. I have a lot of costume changes in my show, and I needed a video to give me the time to change my clothes. And so I created a video to go along with Tinfoil Hat, pretty much thinking that only my audience would see it and react however how I expected them to react. But early on, we started having episodes in the audience where shouting matches would break out. Sometimes it would get very personal. It would last into the next song that I was trying to play.
Okay.
And it just became very disruptive. And I thought, if you're that easily ticked off, you probably will become annoyed at some point in this show. And confrontation is not what the show is about.
Okay, so you have a very provocative kind of intermission video while you do your little costume change. So it disrespects and mocks President Trump, and people in the audience were getting upset about it. So now you're saying, you know what, don't come to my show if you can't handle it. Do you think that's being a little discriminatory?
All I'm saying is, if you can handle it, you're welcome to the show. If you can't handle it, I mean, what's your problem? You presumably already won. Why are you so angry?
Okay.
We're just trying to get our anger out of the way by having a silly little laugh at somebody who's now in power.
That's fine. And listen, we all like laughing at people in power. I did it for the last 8 years. Let's play a clip from Tinfoil Hat so the audience can see what it's all about. Roll the tape.
'Cause a man in the tinfoil hat is reading like a teenage girl. He puts the Pluto in plutocrat, but it's gonna be a huge world.
So, Todd, why is the president wearing a tinfoil hat? Can you explain that?
Well, he was an original conspiracy theorist, wasn't he? He didn't believe that Obama was born in this country, and he fomented that pretty much from the time the former president was elected. Now
I think he was just having a little fun at the president's expense.
Now he's just a little whiny man, isn't he? He's just a whiny man because he didn't win the popular vote, and now there's a giant conspiracy of voter fraud.
President Trump is whining? Todd, I think Hillary Clinton has been whining for the last 6 months. Todd, thank you very much. College campus is more liberal than ever, with violent leftist protests and professors going on anti-Trump rants. Larry Elder tells us how to unbrainwash your kid when they get home from college. Plus, Medal of Honor recipient Dakota Meyer says it's time to turn the tables and make ISIS fear us. He's up next.
I have a warning to you, ISIS. We have trained soldiers in all 50 states that have been actually the same guys who've been kicking your ass for the last 14 years on your own turf.
In a powerful weekend, as we remember those who have fought and died for our country, I want to take a look at the enemy we're currently facing, ISIS. The Islamist group showing just what cowards they are this week when one idiot blew himself up in the middle of a bunch of young girls at an Ariana Grande concert in Manchester, England. 22 dead and 120 injured. While we have trained warfighters dedicated and ready to take them on, ISIS continues to hide from them and attack the most vulnerable, kids, young girls. Disgusting and weak. And now we have a president willing to call them out for exactly what they are.
I will call them from now on losers.
Under President Obama, many of our vets were so frustrated that they chose to speak directly to the terrorists. In 2014, Marine Corps veteran Nick Powers put this message online. Let me explain something to you cowardice fools who think you're so tough behind your propaganda videos. You're scaring a population that doesn't know how to fight. You're bullying the weak. You attack us, and there will be no mercy. We will bring the righteous hand of God down upon you and crush you. And Green Beret sniper and UFC fighter Tim Kennedy said this about them.
They want you to fear them. We can't fear them. They're disgusting humans. Don't fear them. Don't give them credit. Don't call them ISIS. Don't call them ISIL. They're Daesh, and they do not deserve any recognition at all.
And Medal of Honor recipient Dakota Meyer pulled over on the road to record this.
I have a warning to you, ISIS. We have trained soldiers in all 50 states that are trained They're armed. We have also disgruntled veterans in all 50 states that are armed and trained and that have been actually the same guys who've been kicking your ass for the last 14 years on your own turf and have been waiting for the opportunity for you to come over and try to bring your beliefs to the greatest country in the face of the earth.
So there you have it. Soldiers begging to fight them and protect Americans for years. Did President Obama listen? No. Now ISIS has tripled its operations. So how do we stop them from recruiting and growing? Joining me now, Medal of Honor recipient Dakota Meyer and Gold Star mom and author of World Changer, Karen Vaughn. So Dakota, Trump, brilliant brander, and you saw that during the campaign, Crooked Hillary, Crazy Bernie, Lion Ted, now calling ISIS for what they are, losers. Do you think that's an effective PR strategy? Because I certainly do.
I don't think he's doing it. This is what's great about President Trump. I don't think he's doing this as a PR strategy, right? He's doing it because he's truly speaking from the heart. He's saying what we all think. They are losers. Anyone that goes and attacks, young girls, kids, they're losers. There's no other way to describe them. They're losers. They're cowards. They're scum of the earth.
And the best thing to do to prove that they're losers, I believe, is to defeat them on the battlefield, because no one wants to join a group that's losing. You want to join a winning team. Wouldn't you agree with that?
I agree with that 100%. Yeah, and the problem is yes, under the weakness of the Obama administration for the last 8 years, we have seen them feel like they are the dominant player on this field. When we could crush them at any second, we could demolish them, we could annihilate them from the face of the earth, but we've chosen not to. And so I love the angle President Trump is taking. I love the fierceness. I love the fierceness men like Dakota and these other soldiers you've shown on here tonight. I love that.
You do.
Because that's what we've got to do. That's the way my son was, for crying out loud. He said all they respect is brute, lethal force, period. They don't respect anything else.
That's right, and your son died heroically fighting for our freedoms in Afghanistan, so we want to thank you very much for that sacrifice. President Obama, I think, bears some responsibility here. He retreated from Iraq and let ISIS take over a third of that country. He sat by and did nothing, did not enforce the red line that he himself drew, and oversaw a humanitarian crisis in Syria, refugees pouring and now infecting Europe, toppled Gaddafi in Libya, and now the Manchester bomber went there, which is a failed state because they never won the peace, trained, and then came back. So, Dakota, there has to be some accountability to some of these policies that have led to this death and destruction.
Absolutely. I think that if you for 1 second think that under the Obama administration, or that he doesn't have some responsibility for allowing them to grow, that makes no sense. There's no logic to think in any other way. But here's the deal. We still have federal judges who have no intel, no back briefing of anything, who are standing in the way of policies, that executive orders that are being put in place right now, or trying to be able to protect our country. I think that they need to be ready for the backlash if something happens because of them wanting to, get in the way of it, all due to politics and trying to prove a point when there's security reasons behind it.
Karen, Dakota makes a great point there. Unfortunately, it may take a horrific incident within the United States for some of these judges to wake up and say, we have to stop thinking about things in fantasy world and philosophical reasons for not enforcing a travel ban, and say, listen, our job is to keep the country safe.
Right. If you overlook that job, what is your role anymore? Because honestly, they've made it clear what they want from us, right? They want to destroy us. So if we don't turn around and destroy them and use every force that we have a capacity to use against them, then again, they see this as victory. They see this as dominating us. And people didn't go, my son didn't go give his life so that these people could still be terrorizing his children today. For crying out loud, when a child is afraid to go to a concert, what do we become, and what did Aaron die for if this is what we're allowing? So yes, these authorities, these powers that be that want to pretend that this isn't a real war, that people aren't really dying, and just completely block this, my gosh, somebody needs to grab them by the shoulders and just shake them for a minute and make them wake up. This is real. It's just like when we heard Katy Perry saying we need to hug it out with these people. These people want to cut our heads off and watch the blood squirt from our throats.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, seriously, this is what they think of us. These are people who are so barbaric that they burn human beings alive. You don't hug it out with them. We have got to take brute lethal force and annihilate them.
Right.
And until we do that, this is going to continue across every nation. It's going to continue.
That's right. Well, happy Memorial Day weekend to both of you guys, and thank you so much for your service and your sacrifice.
Thank you.
All right. You've seen the video of Melania swatting away her husband's hand. Too bad it's not true. Your fake news and real news update of the week. Plus, my exclusive interview with Eric Trump on the golf course.
Can you grab my bag, Eric? I'm gonna caddy for Jesse today, all right?
What y'all wanna do? Wanna be ballers, shot callers, brawlers. We'll be dipping in the bins with the spoilers. On the low from Miss J in the Taurus. Wanna bumble with the beat, huh? Throw it.
And we are live from America's News Headquarters. I'm Laura Ingle. President Trump is on his way home, concluding his 9-day foreign trip, his first since taking office. The president and first lady boarded Air Force One for the flight back to Washington. Mr. Trump tweeted that he had a great meeting, still considering the Paris Climate Agreement, and would make a final decision next week. Rock legend Greg Allman has died. He's credited with being one of the founding fathers of Southern rock. He formed the Allman Brothers Band with his brother Dwayne in 1969, who died in a motorcycle accident in 1971. Greg's vocals and his touch on the Hammond organ combined with Dwayne's guitar work to give the band its unique sound. He had been ill, canceling a number of concerts over the past year. He was 69. I'm Laura Ingle. Back to Watters World.
Time now for your real news update. Former Obama CIA Director John Brennan testified this week to the House Intel Committee, and this is what he said about who he shared classified information with.
I shared classified information with the Russians while I was director of CIA. CIA, on a routine basis, shares classified information with Russians on terrorism matters. It doesn't mean that it becomes unclassified. It means that it retains the classification but is releasable then to Russia or to other partners. So that in itself is not unprecedented.
So let me get this straight. Trump administration shares classified information with the Russians, and that's bad. Obama administration shares classified information with the Russians, and that's okay? All right. University of Michigan students are deeply troubled by wood paneling because it's masculine and marginalizing. The students claim the history of wood is a history of oppression. The rich, white, privileged had wood paneling back in the day. You know, when I was in college, you know what I was deeply troubled by? Running out of beer. A whistleblower says the Obama administration knowingly let in at least 16 admitted MS-13 gang members as illegal immigrant teenagers in 2014 as part of an immigrant surge. MS-13 is just one of the deadliest and most brutal gangs in the country. So Trump's trying to keep gangbangers out of the country, and Obama's letting them in. Just want to make that clear. A new report that just came out details how much Obama spied on Americans, and it's so much that even the ACLU believes it's serious. And Obama's FBI shared that information with third parties. Who knows who they are? This scandal is just beginning to crack open. Hold your breath for Democrats to call on a special prosecutor. California progressives allege voter fraud in Democratic Party election and demand voter ID. Smell that irony? When Republicans called for requiring voter ID, they were called racist. Seattle police can no longer report suspects. They have to say community members in order to use less offensive and politically correct language. You know, if I was a suspect in a triple homicide, I wouldn't be too worried about being offended by what the police called me. I'd be worried about who my cellmate was. Now for some fake news this week that other people told you was real. First Lady Melania Trump making headlines online for allegedly swatting President Trump's hand away as they got off the plane in Israel, then denying the first hand again in Rome to fix her hair. A scandal for sure. But wait, what's this? They finally connect in Sicily. Handgate is officially now over. But the press doesn't stop there. Clearly from this picture, the Pope doesn't like President Trump, right? That's what the immediate headlines were, but that's fake news. Check out the actual video that shows a very different story. Peace be with you. And finally, a video that is definitely real. But what is exactly happening? Some say President Trump is trying to put America first at a NATO meeting. We will let you decide. Someone who constantly deals with the media's obsession with fake news, Eric Trump. I caught up with him Wednesday at the Trump National Golf Club in Bedminster, New Jersey, talking politics, business, and the media over a little golf. Roll the tape.
Does this place look familiar, Jesse?
Yeah, how you doing there?
And now you're back in our world, right?
I am. Thanks for having me. This looks like where your dad was interviewing prospective cabinet members.
There were quite a few cabinet members that came through that door. It's an amazing place. Can't wait to show you around.
Let's go take a look.
Come on, let's go.
Let's do it. Is everything the greatest here at this course?
Come on, Jesse, you know Trump. It has to be the greatest. So this is the big man's lockers. The whole family, we have all our lockers in here, and we spend a lot of time here. It's kind of a home away from home for us.
Oh, wow. Barron Trump's locker is closer than yours. Is Barron a good golfer?
Barron's tall, he's strong, he can hit the ball a mile already.
Now, who's a better golfer? Don Jr. or Eric?
Oh, I'll take Don.
You will?
Yeah. And you can ask him the same thing, and he'll tell you the same, so.
Father's had a lot of success, but media keeps on harping on Russia, Russia, Russia. What's he going to do to neutralize that?
It's all nonsense. I mean, it's a witch hunt. It's really, really insane. I think Syria, quite frankly, demonstrated that there wasn't exactly anything with Russia. But hey, listen, there was a political party. They got beaten very badly by a person who came out of nowhere, who everybody wrote off, who everybody gave no chance to. They outspent us 7-1. And he won. And there's some, pretty disappointed people out there. And so they want to further a narrative for their own political agenda. And I really believe that they would rather see this country fail than see him succeed.
So the Russia thing is a hoax?
It's a total hoax.
Yeah.
It's a total hoax.
So your dad just got back from this big trip overseas. What struck you about it?
It's amazing. He did so well. It was just the images when he arrived in Saudi Arabia and the respect that they gave him. And, one of the things I always talked about on the campaign trail was, the lack of respect that we were receiving around the world. And I see it all the time, right? I mean, I'm in tons and tons of different countries, and they just didn't respect America, for a long time. I mean,
President Obama bowed to the Saudi king, and they didn't really respect him. Your father didn't, and they greeted him with open arms.
President Obama came off a plane in China, and they didn't bring a staircase up to Air Force One, which is, maybe the greatest insult to America. I mean, what's more of a symbol of America than Air Force One? And then you see the reception when he came off of Air Force One in Saudi Arabia, and everybody was there to meet him, and he had the marching bands and the military and the flyover of the jets and everything else. I mean, it was really a beautiful image, and what he did in Israel I thought was incredibly moving.
He puts the hand on the Western Wall, very touching moment.
And Israel's one of our great allies in the world, and they haven't been treated with the respect that they should be, and that's going to change under him. And then to meet with the Pope, really have the full trifecta, but to meet with the Pope, I thought it was a beautiful trip, and I couldn't be more proud of him.
Did your father call you from Air Force One and say, Eric, just met with the Pope, good guy, good energy?
Great guy, great energy.
The best.
Nice man. No, he loved the trip. He loved everybody he met with, and I think you're going to see a different side of diplomacy.
Your father's come under attack a lot from the mainstream media. How do you think he's handling that?
Listen, I think it's par of the course, right? I mean, we know what we're dealing with.
No pun intended.
Yeah, exactly. No pun intended. It's what we've been dealing with, since day one. We came under attack every single day during the campaign, and we're going to continue to come out under attack. And, so many of these people, they got it wrong. They got it wrong, and now they're doubling down. He's driving them crazy. And in fact, I think they're going so extreme in so many cases. I think they're losing a lot of credibility, and I think that's really resonating with Americans. So.
Well, what little credibility they had to begin with. So you've taken over the Trump Organization. Do you think you guys are going to make more or less money now that your father's president? Because now you guys have to worry about all these conflict of interest regulations.
And listen, we've also said we're not going to do anything overseas until he's out of the office, and so we've made great sacrifices, meaning as a company, by doing that. But it's also the right thing to do, and we take this very, very, very seriously.
What's the next venture for the Trump Organization that we're going to be hearing about?
We're working on hotels all over the country, and keeping it here, keeping jobs here, and listen, growing. My family's growing. My wife's expecting in September. And
congratulations!
So between the election, the inauguration, this new role. Everything we're doing, adding members to the family, it's been an exciting year.
If you need a baby name, Jesse's a great name.
Yeah, I like that.
Another piece of advice, I have twin girls. My golf game suffered dramatically when you have kids.
Yeah. When you travel 220 days a year, my golf game suffers as well. But it's,
all right, well, we're going to have to see
sure
later.
That's going to happen. Yeah, we'll have a little contest.
All right, well, I don't want to say what the wager is. We'll talk about that off camera. Let's go. Can you grab my bag, Derek?
I'm gonna caddy for Jesse today, all right?
Since I saw Eric, reports surfaced of an attempted cyber attack on the Trump Organization. The FBI reportedly questioning Eric and Don Jr. about it, so I reached out to Eric and got the scoop. A Trump Organization spokesperson tells us, like virtually every other company these days, we are routinely targeted by cyber terrorists whose only focus is to inflict harm on great American businesses. To be clear, the Trump Organization was not hacked. While we will remain vigilant in fighting off any attempts to do so, we are confident in the steps we have taken to protect our businesses and safeguard our information. Liberal professors outnumber conservatives 12-1 on college campuses. So how do you unbrainwash your college student when they come home? Larry Elder here with advice. Plus, there's brainwashed students, and then there's these students. Don't miss this classic Waters World quiz. It was the North versus the...
South Korea? North Korea? No.
A recent study says colleges are leaning left more than ever, with liberal professors outnumbering conservative ones almost 12-1. How does that affect your kid? Just look what happens when these students are given all of President Obama's accomplishments, but told they were done by President Trump.
Trump recently went on what was called an apology tour to countries like Egypt and Saudi Arabia, basically apologizing for the past 8 years and saying, there's a new sheriff in town, this old stuff's not going to fly.
Him apologizing like that to the other countries, is it something that, you would like to see him stop doing?
Oh, for sure. I really think he kind of overstepped his bounds. I think he's just trying to fix Band-Aids.
So how can parents unbrainwash their kids now that they're home for summer break? Joining me with some ideas, nationally syndicated Salem radio host Larry Elder. All right, so Larry, your freshman comes back and they're home for the summer. Hopefully they have a job. Right. And they come back and they start spouting all this Russia conspiracy stuff. What are the parents supposed to say to that?
I think the parents need to first educate their children as to the dimensions of this problem. As you pointed out, college campuses, at least on the humanities side, overwhelmingly left-wing. When I went to college back in the Bronze Age, Jesse, there was about 2.5 to 1
You look great,
Democrat
by the way,
versus
Larry.
Republican.
You look fantastic.
Thank you. About 2.5 Democrats for every 1 Republican in a typical history department. Right now, it's 10-1 for professors that are over 65. Wow. It's about 20-1 for professors under the age of 36. And it's worse in other areas like history, like sociology, if you can find a Republican at all. When it comes to commencement speakers that have to do with the political message, about 4 or 5 to 1.
Forget
Democrats,
about it with the commencement speakers. We've been showing this all week. I mean, it's Elizabeth Warren, it's Hillary Clinton, it's Oprah. I mean, I haven't seen one conservative speaker out there. I have yet to be invited to speak at commencement at my college. I don't expect that invitation will come soon. So let's just be specific. So your son comes back or your daughter comes back, and they, very into the PC stuff. They don't know what bathroom to use. They don't say he or she. They're very afraid of speaking accurately. They don't say Islamic terrorism.
Right.
What do you tell them about that?
Well, the good news is, in this day and age of social media, there are all sorts of resources to undo some of this indoctrination. There is something called Prager University that's been set up by one of my colleagues at Salem called Dennis Prager. He does 5-minute videos, Jesse, on every topic under the sun. The history of the Democratic Party. Is America still racist? What about the minimum wage? All sorts of things that a parent can resource to show their kid in 5 easy, digestible minutes to undo some of the indoctrination. But the important thing is to tell their kids that there's another point of view, and there's plenty of resources, the Daily Caller, all sorts of other conservative resources to undo some of this stuff. And parents need to be proactive and have their kids be proactive and understand that they have to learn defensively, recognized as another point of view.
So Larry, let's just say you're the father of twins, and the twins come back and they say, Larry, or they say Dad. They say, Dad, Trump should be impeached. By the way, would be news
to my girlfriend.
We don't want to get into that. Trump should be impeached. Do you want to have him watch these Prager videos, tell him to watch the 5 at 9 o'clock, maybe to
that's right,
brush up on some facts? What do you do?
There's plenty of resources. There's all sorts of conservative publications that put together the other side. There's blogs like American Thinker. I've just written an article about the stupidity of the impeachment. There's talk radio. There's the Larry Elder Show on Salem Radio. I'm in 300 markets. Follow me on Twitter. There's all sorts of other smart people that can give you an alternative point of view.
So it's about exposing these college students to maybe some alternative media so they're not completely brainwashed for the rest of the 9 months each year. All right, Larry, listen, I'm worried about these college kids. I'm very worried. You've seen me out in the streets, so you know. Or the beach, and we're going to have the beach interviews next. You got to see this, so stick around, all right? It's troubled waters out there, no pun intended. Who did America fight in the Revolutionary War?
The French? China.
China?
Since that summer, cherry pants, cold crush, rock stud boogie. Used to hate school, so I had to play hooky.
This weekend, we celebrate Memorial Day, a day for remembering America's fallen soldiers. But how much do Americans really know about the history of that sacrifice? I have to warn you, it is shameful. Check it out. So why is everybody off on Monday?
I don't know, to just enjoy this beautiful weather, I guess.
What is Monday?
Monday is fun day.
Monday is also Memorial Day.
Oh, yes, that's true.
What are we honoring on Memorial Day?
Oh, beats me. I don't know. What's going on?
I think all those were lost giving service to this country.
Exactly. Who did America fight in the Revolutionary War?
The French?
That's a good question. I don't know.
Countries.
Countries?
Yes. China.
China?
Wow, I feel really dumb.
Who did America fight?
Well, North versus South, the Confederate versus the Union.
That was the Civil War.
Oh.
Britain.
Right across there?
Mm-hmm.
That's Great Britain.
Really?
Who won the Civil War?
No idea. Britain? It was America and Britain and Spain, some part of Spain. And, yeah.
It was the North versus the...
South Korea? North Korea?
The North versus the South. Do you know what the Civil War was about?
I'm not much of a history guy.
I can tell. World War II. Who'd we fight there?
Wow, I just learned this too.
You did?
Really putting me to the test. My teacher watches this, he's probably gonna be real mad. It was the Allies versus the Axis? Yeah, no. China. The South.
That was the last question.
China.
Germany and Japan.
Who won the Cold War?
I do not know. Russia. France.
America won the Cold War.
Oh, we won the... Okay, so go America.
Why'd they call it the Cold War?
Russia's cold up there, you know.
Do you know who I am?
I sadly do.
I'm Waters.
Nice to meet you.
And this is my world right here.
Cool.
Up next, tweets of the week.